نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أمن خلق السماوات والأرض وأنزل لكم من السماء ماء فأنبتنا به حدائق ذات بهجة ما كان لكم أن تنبتوا شجرها أإله مع الله بل هم قوم يعدلون. أمن جعل الأرض قرارا وجعل خلالها أنهارا وجعل لها رواسي وجعل بين البحرين حاجزا أإله مع الله بل أكثرهم لا يعلمون. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء ويجعلكم خلفاء الأرض أإله مع الله قليلا ما تذكرون. أمن يهديكم في ظلمات البر والبحر ومن يرسل الرياح بشرا بين يدي رحمته أإله مع الله تعالى الله عما يشركون. أمن يبدأ الخلق ثم يعيده ومن يرزقكم من السماء والأرض أإله مع الله قل هاتوا برهانكم إن كنتم صادقين. Respectful honorable friends, the verses that have been recited, these are the opening verses of the 20th juz. And in these verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions some of the signs indicating towards the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, indicating towards the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have covered such types of verses previously as well, wherein Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions some of His powers, some of His qudrat. And the maqsad for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioning this qudrat of His is so that a person reflects over these and these signs and these qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will draw a person close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And along with it, it establishes the rububiyyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It establishes tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as it is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has the qudrat of carrying out such type of feats. And this we can say is the tafseer of what I mentioned on Wednesday in the majlis of Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. That when we say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Rabbil Alameen, that it is these verses that establish Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being Rabbil Alameen. In the opening verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that أَمَّنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ وَأَنزَلَ لَكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً. That أَمَّنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ, which is as, and the section or the part which is muqaddar, meaning which is not mentioned here, meaning here is that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better than the gods of the mushrikeen? This is what it means here, that in comparison to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the mushrikeen, the gods that the mushrikeen had taken as their ilah. أَمَّنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Or is the being of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has created the heavens and the earth, وَأَنزَلَ لَكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً, 'a', 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 ' Meaning that is Allah Ta'ala better than the gods of the mushrikeen? This is what it means. فَأَنْبَتْنَا بِهِ حَدَائِقَ ذَاتَ بَهْجَةٍ. With it we grow gardens of splendid beauty. ذَاتَ بَهْجَةٍ. مَا كَانَ لَكُمْ أَن تُنْبِتُوا شَجَرَهَا. It is not possible for you to grow its trees. أَإِلَهٌ مَعَ اللَّهِ. Is there another ilah with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? بَلْ no. هُمْ قَوْمٌ يَعْدِلُونَ. They are but a people who يَعْدِلُونَ, make equals to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here Allah Ta'ala poses a question that أَمَّنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Who is the one who's created the heavens and the earth? Is it Allah Ta'ala who's created the heavens of the earth? Or is it the deities that the mushrikeen have adopted? Who is the one? Who is that who has created the heavens and the earth? That is one. And the other is وَأَنزَلَ لَكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً. And then who has sent down rain for you from the skies? So are these deities capable and able to do this as well? And then from the same water that was sent from the heavens, فَأَنْبَتْنَا بِهِ حَدَائِقَ. فَأَنْبَتْنَا means to grow. So what grew from it? Gardens. Hada'iq means gardens. From hadiqatun. And hadiqa is, you have gardens. One is a garden which has no boundary, and hadiqa is the one that has a boundary to it. And that too, one which is ذَاتَ بَهْجَةٍ. So a garden itself, orchards and various other plantations. And the other is one that is ذَاتَ بَهْجَةٍ, splendid, meaning one that is flourishing, of splendid beauty. So a garden is the one that is flourishing. That when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's the way we have so many different species of various other creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When it comes to plantation itself, there are so many different species of plantation. And then from all those species as well, when it comes to this plants itself, and in plants, they say flowers for example, because plantation, we have vegetation, and all sorts of different plantations. Now if you just take flowers itself, you won't find just a handful of different flowers. Flowers itself are in its thousands and thousands. That you'll have one garden, and that garden will have so many different types of flowers that are there. Who is it that has created this? It is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah Ta'ala who's beautified that garden with all these different species, different types of plantation. And person goes to garden center, you'll see so many there. Seeds, so many different seeds. And when you go to actually well looked after established gardens as well, where you'll even find hundreds of different types of flowers and plantations that are there. Who has created this? It is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that how Allah Ta'ala has that qudrat of not just one or two, but so many. And that too, each plant is so different to the next one. If you take the smell as well, the smell will be so different as well. So neither it is different, is it just different in how it looks, in its color, in its style and type, but even the smell will be different, the fragrance is different. This is only what the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the reality person goes, especially when a person goes out and the person visits such places where there is this natural beauty that is there. It should all lead towards what? Towards the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, towards the tawheed of Allah ta'ala. But who is it after all who has been able to create all of this? مَا كَانَ لَكُمْ أَن تُنْبِتُوا شَجَرَهَا. And Allah Ta'ala mentions that it is not possible for you, mankind, to grow its trees. Meaning all man can do is plant a seed. And تُنْبِتُوا شَجَرَهَا, man can do is what? He can plant the seed that is there. But then the rest of the process, no mankind has any power over that. We can sow the seeds of any plant for that matter, and a tree or whatever. But then beyond that, what can we do? We can sow the soil, we can look after it, we can water it. But there isn't much after that we can do. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who وَأَنزَلَ لَكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً, the water which is a natural water that has come from the heavens. And then for that seed to actually establish in the ground, for it to lay roots in the ground, and for it to live as well. So many seeds, not all seeds will bear fruits. So for that to open up as well, for it to root within it, and then for it to grow, and when after it grows, for it to give fruits as well, and the fruits to be also edible. All of this is only in the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Mankind can only look after it, give water for example, and maybe look after it in the sense of giving various food for it, nourishment, something that is beneficial for it to grow. Then when it grows, just to look after it, to make sure that it grows correctly, also in a correct form, also put something to stabilize the roots in that. More than that, it is only in the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Which field flourishes, which garden flourishes. Again, this is in the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A person tries planting something, it fails, nothing grows at all. And in another soil, another garden, everything, as you try, as you sow, it bears fruits. Ilahum ma'allah. Allah Ta'ala puts the question, is there another ilah with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Bal hum qawmun ya'dilun. No. No one else can be worthy of worship but him, because of who can accomplish these feats. However, they, whom the mushrikeen, are but people who ya'dilun, make equal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning, they refuse to accept tawheed and they continue to make equal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَمَّنْ جَعَلَ الْأَرْضَ قَرَارًا وَجَعَلَ خِلَالَهَا أَنْهَارًا وَجَعَلَ لَهَا رَوَاسِيَ وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَ الْبَحْرِينَ حَاجِزًا. And then Allah Ta'ala mentions another few qudrat of his. That is, أَمَّنْ جَعَلَ الْأَرْضَ. Is he who made the earth stable, جَعَلَ الْأَرْضَ قَرَارًا, solid so that it does not shake or tilt. وَجَعَلَ خِلَالَهَا أَنْهَارًا, who created rivers in its midst. وَجَعَلَ لَهَا رَوَاسِيَ, who placed mountains on it. وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَ الْبَحْرَيْنِ حَاجِزًا, who has placed a barrier between the two seas. So who is, again Allah is asking, who is better? Is Allah Ta'ala better, or are the gods of the mushrikeen better? Are they able to do such? That how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the earth, in the circle form that it is, the field that it is. And then too, when a person walks on the earth, and the earth itself does not tilt, it does not sway any this side or that side, it does not shake. The fact that the earth is steady in its place. Who has done this? It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has created it in such a manner. Now imagine if it was such that there was no stability for us at all. Like when a person goes into space and that. And we were in that condition, how difficult it would be for us just to read our salah or get from one place to another place. But it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has created it in such a manner. And then, وَجَعَلَ خِلَالَهَا أَنْهَارًا. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created rivers in its midst. Another qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Where there is land, only land, and between that land, within that land, there is oceans, there is rivers flowing within the land itself. Another great qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And how the rain as well, when the rain falls, there is that rain that then the earth will accept it. There is that rain that the earth will not accept, and that just flows away. So how the earth is created in such a manner as well. And then وَجَعَلَ لَهَا رَوَاسِيَ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that who has placed mountains on it. Rawasiya means here mountains on it. And mountains have been placed as weights. The way you put something heavy to keep something stable, mountains are those which are weights. And not only that, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the mountains are rooted as well. And researchers have even researched these verses of the Qur'an. That the mountains are not just on the surface of the earth, but if you dig up, they are actually rooted within the earth. So it isn't something that just on top, something on top will be able to slide here and there, but it is actually rooted within the earth, keeping the earth stable and the weights for the earth as well. وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَ الْبَحْرَيْنِ حَاجِزًا. And then another qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which we did not too long ago, that it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has placed a barrier between the two seas, where you have that where is sweet, and there where the Bahrain, between sweet and bitter, wherein different color of the ocean as well. But they do not interlock, they do not meet at all. Who has created that barrier? You go there, you put your hand through it, you swim through it, you swim all the way through it. There's no walls there, there's no barriers there at all, no netting there, nothing whatsoever. It is only the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ilahum ma'allah. Again Allah that asks the question, is there, meaning can there be any ilah with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Bal aktharuhum la ya'lamun. No, but most of them, meaning the mushrikeen, are ignorant. La ya'lamun, they do not know. So there can be nobody who is more superior than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in these powers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And further Allah ta'ala mentions, أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ وَيَجْعَلَكُمْ خُلَفَاءَ الْأَرْضِ أَإِلَٰهٌ مَعَ اللَّهِ قَلِيلًا مَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. Allah ta'ala says, أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ. Who is the one who will respond to the mustar, to the distress? إِذَا دَعَاهُ, when he calls him. وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ, who averts evil. وَيَجْعَلَكُمْ خُلَفَاءَ الْأَرْضِ, and who has made you deputies on earth. So here Allah Ta'ala mentions another few qudrats and powers of His. And that is Allah Ta'ala says, أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ. Who is the one who responds to the distress when he calls him? Mustar is that person who calls towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at a time of distress, meaning at a time wherein one knows that nobody can help but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is what you call mustar. One is just normal making dua and calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you know that there are others around you who do have the ability and capability of helping and assisting you as well. That won't be the case or situation of istirar, of desperation. Mustar here is when a person is desperate to an extent that a person knows that at this moment only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can help and assist me. Nobody has the power to help and assist me. So this calling out for help is different to calling out for help in normal circumstances. So who is it who responds? That's why Allah Ta'ala used the word mustarra for. Because imagine other calling out for help, there will be people, others who have the capability, who have the ability to help an individual. But then there are those circumstances wherein, no, others don't have that capability. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can help and assist an individual. Hence Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. And at the same time, when he calls to Allah ta'ala for help, who can avert evil from people. As Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa mentions, from the du'as that are accepted, one is that of a mazloom, one who is oppressed, and that the person who is in a state of distress as well. And the reason for this is that when a person is in this condition, the dua that a person makes predominantly is full of sincerity. Because you know that nobody else can help you. So a person solely asks from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hence that dua, even if it is a non-Muslim as well, it is accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because there is sincerity in it. The example Allah mentioned in the Qur'an as well. That even non-Muslim, those who do not believe, but when they're in a boat and the boat is about to sink, even then they will call to who? They will call to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make a promise as well. If we are saved, then they will stay away from shirk. But then when they are saved, they return, they resort back to what they were doing. So at that time, the dua that is made out of sincerity. So because of that sincerity of ikhlas, and this is what ikhlas does. So because it's ikhlas when a person is distressed, hence Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts the dua of such an individual. So who is it who helps the one who is helpless? And who وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ, and who averts evil from people. As Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa mentioned in the hadith as well, that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants evil or harm to come towards an individual, everything, the whole world and everybody can try and help and assist one. No assistance can come in persons. Why? Because Allah ta'ala has ordained or wanted, decreed that this person should be inflicted with some distress. And if the entire world come together and want to inflict distress on any person or any people, and Allah Ta'ala doesn't want, then they are unable to cause any distress to that individual. No matter how much efforts they make, how much strength is utilized, and means is put into it as well. If Allah Ta'ala doesn't want to, then it is only Allah Ta'ala who can avert evil from a person. And then Allah Ta'ala says, وَيَجْعَلُكُمْ خُلَفَاءَ الْأَرْضِ, and He has made you His deputies on earth. Here Khulafa al-Ard either refers towards deputies, meaning to enforce the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what one of the Khulafa means here. The deputies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in carrying out the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another tafsir here of Khulafa is, Khalifa is, as you say, a deputy, one who succeeds another. One who succeeds another. So here Khulafa al-Ard again refers to another qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which maybe we may have not pondered over up till now. That is, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already created so many makhluk, so many human beings, from the time of Sayyidina Adam alayhi salatu wasalam till now, until the day of Qiyamah. If Allah Ta'ala wanted to, Allah Ta'ala could have created the whole of humanity at the same time. All those who have passed till now, whatever the figures may be, and those to come in until the day of Qiyamah, if Allah Ta'ala wanted to, Allah Ta'ala could have created all at the same time. Now just imagine how overpopulated things would be. Just imagine how overpopulated we would be. And then if that was the case, then how would we live? How would we live? Who would take the jobs? Already now there are people who are complaining that others are taking our jobs, we're not getting work in that. Now just imagine then there would be no system, it would be so difficult, there would be no place to move or maneuver at all. And how many, you'll have a whole nation of joiners, you'll have a whole nation of plumbers, you'll have a whole nation of this and that. Who would get the jobs and who wouldn't? So there would be absolute chaos if the whole of humanity was created and sent at the same time to the earth by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here it is Allah Ta'ala who has created in such a manner that you have generations and generations and generations. That people come, a certain amount come, a generation passes by, they depart, and then new people come, another generation, and the many initial day of Qiyamah, the system will continue, where you hear of the birth of somebody, and on the other side where you hear of the death, and in one day itself, you will hear somebody's home, that a child has been born there, and another home you hear what somebody has departed from this world. This is the nizam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There will be those who will depart, and there will be new who come. There will be those who depart and new that come. So again, this is something that we may not reflect upon, but this is what refers to as well, وَيَجْعَلُكُمْ خُلَفَاءَ الْأَرْضِ, that this is the system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it comfortable for us as well. So in other words, we do not need to worry about overpopulation. We do not need to worry about that, because Allah Ta'ala has taken care of that Himself. There's enough land. And if you look at it, even now people talk about overpopulation, that is because maybe we are living in those areas, but world land-wise, there is still a lot of land that can be occupied as well. وَإِلَهُ مَعَ اللَّهِ. Again Allah Ta'ala says, is there another ilah but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? قَلِيلًا مَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. But very few of them, little do you take heed. Meaning despite all of this advice that comes your way, the mushrikeen and such, there are very little who actually take heed to this. أَمَّنْ يَهْدِيكُمْ فِي ظُلُمَاتِ الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ وَمَنْ يُرْسِلُ الرِّيَاحَ بُشْرًا بَيْنَ يَدَيْ رَحْمَتِهِ أَإِلَٰهٌ مَعَ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى اللَّهُ عَمَّا يُشْرِكُونَ. Father Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, أَمَّنْ يَهْدِيكُمْ. Who is the one? Who is better? Again, the same question is asked all the time. Allah Ta'ala or the mushrikeen, the gods of the mushrikeen? Who is the one who yahdikum, who guides you, meaning to your destinations, fi zulumatil barri, in the darkness of the land, wal bahri, and the sea. That is one. وَمَا يُرْسِلُ الرِّيَاحَ بُشْرًا بَيْنَ رَحْمَتِهِ, and who sends the winds as a carrier of good news, بَيْنَ رَحْمَتِهِ, before His mercy. Allah Ta'ala mentions two things here. أَمَّا يَهْدِيكُمْ فِي ظُلُمَاتِ الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ. That who is the one who guides you in the darkness of land and by sea, by creating landmarks, heavenly bodies, and teaching you the skill of navigation. That this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself has created. That again, what if all the land around us, everything, all the landmarks, everything was exactly the same? Take away the buildings. Buildings is something that we have made, and we have different buildings. Different cities will have different types, styles of buildings as well. And when you go around the world, the style of building is also very different. The architecture is very different. Design is very different throughout the world. But take all the buildings out, and just the landscape, natural landscape, neither is that replicated all over the world. That wherever you go, the landscape is the same. No. You go look at England, United Kingdom, look at Europe, and then you go towards Asia, Middle East. Throughout the world you look. The landscape itself is so different. That there are those who are able to look at the landscape, the soil, and gather from that, from the trees, for example, and the soil, the mountains, and get an idea that, look, this is this country, this is this country or so. As people nowadays Photoshop a lot of things and put somebody in this part of the world or that part of the world, and they'll know that this is not the United Kingdom, this is not this part of the world. You'll have a lush, full, beautiful garden, something very good plantation somewhere, and people will say that this is this country or that country. But there are those who look at it and say, no, these trees are not found in that country. This plantation is not, this type of mountains, this type of hills are not found in that country. So that people will be able to recognize this. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has even created that. So person who is traveling, by traveling itself, by looking at the landscape, they will know that, look, where they are, how to find them, navigate themselves. This is the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. This is afterwards that mankind has developed upon skills of navigation. But then at the same time, who has given us the qudrat? And nowadays you look at the navigation prior to that, like fi zulmatil barri wal bahr, Allah Ta'ala said in the darkness of land and sea. That look at sea as well. Okay, on land you can still understand that a person can look around and see some different landscape in that. But those who are, for example, in the aeroplane, when you're in the skies, or when you're in the sea as well, what do you see around you? There everything looks exactly the same. There everything looks the same. But despite that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted such navigation skills, ability, that the captain of the ship and the pilot of the plane, he is able to navigate through what will look to us as being impossible. How does he know which direction to go to? And you won't have there next right, next left, next right, next left. But still the plane will be in the heavens, in the skies. And the ship is sailing away, but it knows. So before there was the technology that we have for navigation, how did people navigate? That is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted the skills to people. To the extent that even the wind, the smell of the wind, the feel of the wind, and as in being cold or warm, all of these things were used as navigation tools in the past. And the greatest that Allah Ta'ala created was that of the stars. So stars were not just there for decoration purposes, they were there for a reason. And there were those who at that time knew the stars, and they would navigate by using the stars. Even both on the darkness and land. Again, daytime you can still see around you, you know where you're heading for, which direction. So you might be able to see the various buildings that are there. But nighttime, and this is we're talking about zulumatil barri, when there were no street lights. When there were no street lights, then how would they navigate? Again, the moon would be utilized. The various stars, and this would be indication. So one is that Allah Ta'ala created these means, and on top of that, Allah Ta'ala taught insan the skills to be able to navigate and know how to get by. And then وَمَنْ يُرْسِلُ الرِّيَاحَ بُشْرًا بَيْنَ يَدَيْ رَحْمَتِهِ. And who sends the winds as a carrier of good news, meaning that which is foretelling approaching rain, بَيْنَ يَدَيْ رَحْمَتِهِ, before His mercy, which refers towards the rain itself. So who is the one who sends such winds? Meaning that when it's about to rain, and when there's monsoon, the wind at that time is a different type of wind. And where a person is in need of rain, then when the wind comes, this is bushra min rahmati. an indication of what? That the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to descend, that the rainfall is going to come. Ilahum ma'allah, ta'ala Allahu amma yushrikun. Is there another ilah with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Ta'ala Allahu amma yushrikun. Allah ta'ala is exalted and high above that which they ascribe as partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَمَّنْ يَبْدَأُ الْخَلْقَ ثُمَّ يُعِيدُهُ وَمَنْ يَرْزُقُكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ أَإِلَٰهٌ مَّعَ اللَّهِ قُلْ هَاتُوا بُرْهَانَكُمْ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Further Allah ta'ala mentions, أَمَّنْ يَبْدَأُ الْخَلْقَ. Or he the one who originated, يَبْدَأُ الْخَلْقَ, originated the creation, ثُمَّ يُعِيدُهُ, and then who will recreate it. So who is capable of doing it? Are these idols of the mushrikeen able to do this? Or is it Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And two qudrats of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One is Yabda'ul Khalq, who initiated the creation. And I mentioned to you previously, mankind just replicates or learns from that which Allah ta'ala has created, or clones. But who created the original? So it is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who Yabda'ul Khalq, from nothing at all Allah ta'ala created insan. And then not only that, ثُمَّ يُعِيدُهُ, that who will recreate it. On the day of Qiyamah, when people will be resurrected from their graves, when now they have decomposed, they have returned to soil and sand, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ثُمَّ يُعِيدُهُ will resurrect us, and each person will then be recreated in the same form. It won't be a case of, oh, that time your eyes were green, now they're brown. There won't be any changes. Your complexion has changed. The complexion has become a bit darker, a bit fairer. Also, a person's physical structure has now all of a sudden changed from one to the other. The person's nose, the size of the nose, or the size of the forehead, or the size of the chin, or anything of that nature. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these are two great qudrats of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One is to create from the beginning, and then for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to recreate as well. These are only the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then وَمَنْ يَرْزُقُكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ, and who sustains you from the skies and the earth. Meaning who sends down rain for you, which is beneficial for you. And وَالْأَرْضِ, and the earth. Meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent us to this world. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created for us natural food. That all types of food will grow, and all other forms of food we have to live off. Meaning that the processed food that we have, made food that we have, if all these factories and plants, if all these were to shut down or not exist, man will not be left without any food. Because these did not exist in the past. When these did not exist in the past, how did they live? From the time of Sayyidina Adam ﷺ till these factories and manufacturers came about, food still existed. So if you were to take all of these out, natural food is still there for insan. That will still exist for insan. Something that we do not need to worry about. It is that our habits have changed, that we are so dependent upon these types of food. But naturally itself, so neither did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send us to this earth, and now you just make your own food. Think for yourself what you should eat, and now somehow make that for yourself, or starve to death. No, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala naturally send down the rain from the heavens. And you have the plantation, the various different forms of fruits and that Allah Ta'ala has given us. And all sorts of different forms of food that Allah Ta'ala has given us to live off. So again the question is that who is the one and who is better in doing this? Is Allah or the mushrikeen's God? The mushrikeen's God are not able to do, but anyone for that matter. Besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, none have the qudrat of being able to produce such. Ilahum ma'allah. Is there another ilah with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? If so, then قُلْ هَاتُوا بُرْهَانَكُمْ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Means that if after all of this, if the mushrikeen still maintain that their gods can do all that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can do, then say to them, هَاتُوا بُرْهَانَكُمْ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Then bring forward your proof if you are truthful. If you say, our gods are able to do these things as well. and our gods are worthy of being equal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh no, equal to Allah or better than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then fine, bring the proof. Allah Ta'ala has brought the proof here as it is. All these qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the whole maqsad is for those who do not believe, this is proof to establish the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for those who do believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for them it is in order to strengthen the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the yaqeen in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if they are able to, then bring proof and evidence towards it. And we all know that none will be able to bring any proof and evidence towards it at all. These are solely what the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is these sorts of verses that Allah Ta'ala brings on various occasions in different manner as well. Allah Ta'ala mentions it. And neither is it the same thing repeated, that a person becomes sort of bored with something, that we're hearing the same verse over and over again. But the same topic is mentioned, but in different way, the manner in which this is the eloquence of the Qur'an. This is the eloquence of the Qur'an. Because something, if you were to just have a similar statement that is repeated in the same, exactly same form, then you'll become a bit fed up with it, bored with that. But the same topic is repeated, but how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions it in a beautiful form, eloquent form, that each verse describing the same qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seems so different and so unique from one another. This itself is what the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we as believers should read the Qur'an, understand these verses, and then after that ponder over these things. Not take these things lightly as well. Hence now when we do sit in our vehicles, and it is, Allah Ta'ala has made it so easy for us now, that we have, you don't have to sit in your vehicles, now you just have your navigation in your hand as well. You have your navigation in your hand as well. That how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created that technology that makes it so easy for us. But prior to that, there were those people who were more intelligent than us, who Allah Ta'ala had given them the ability, who would look around, observe what is around, and they would be able to navigate according to what will be around. Hence, there will be those who, when they would go, we just blindly, we are blind. Like in the past, when there were no mobile phones and that, people would memorize phone numbers. And their memory was good, they would memorize as calculation as well. Now, simple calculation as well. Person won't bother working it out. Simple one as well. Isn't it? It's about 50 plus 10. So even then, it'll be, just hang on. So even for something as simple as that, we'll put 50 plus 10. This happens, isn't it? We become so reliant on it that that's why mentally we're not utilizing that capability. In the past, we didn't have that, so people used their mind, and they would have to rely on that. And the more you utilize something, the more powerful it becomes. Similarly, people would memorize numbers. Now nobody remembers. If you ask people, what's your number? And you have to look up your own number. Because numbers you don't memorize. So there's somebody, your own number, you just type it in, you put it, save it, somebody else's contact, you put it in. You don't remember these things. You go somewhere as well, you just put the postcode, you just navigate there. To the extent that at times it might be somewhere that you know where to go, majority of the journey, but maybe towards the end of the journey, you're not sure exactly the street where the street may be. But even then you'll put the navigation from the beginning of it. And there'll be those who, despite knowing how to get, for example, you want to get to Leeds. And you know where you need to go to Leeds, but it's just a case of from that point inside maybe a few streets or so, you're not sure of that area location. But you know how to get there. But naturally what we do is we'll still put the navigation from home. And then what happens is we'll follow that all the way. To that extent that sometimes it might take you on a longer route as well. But then we'll just keep on following, just going according to that as well. Instead of thinking for a moment, look, we know how to get there, there is better ways of getting there, and just use it at the end. No, but we just blindly will be following that. Which means that now on the return as well, we have to put in our return address in order to be able to get home. In the past, that wasn't the case. Person entered a new city somewhere new, they would be observing, looking around, remembering landmarks. Again, they'll see a building, look, this is the gates, this is the side, which direction we entered the city from. So they'll remember a mountain, maybe a specific building that they passed. So they'll remember these things so they know that on the return, how to get back. So this is natural qudrat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, understanding that Allah ta'ala has given to mankind. Now obviously technology has taken the same thing, just developed it in certain manners. Now you have satellite that does all the navigating for us. But still, this is the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again, even when we put in whatever postcode and we are using the navigation, again, show gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the qudrat of Allah ta'ala, that insan, mankind, was able to even make and invent something of that nature, that you are able to navigate in such a manner. So all these various qudrats of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whenever we see these, we see gardens now, we see natural things, we see the heavens and the earth, we see the rain. Then again, think of the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We see the mountains. Think of the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the oceans, the lakes. Think of the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created for us, even in the darkness as well, there is light for us. There's a natural moon that is there. If there's no street lights at all, if the moon is out, how that itself will help us, the stars will help us to navigate. These are the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let us grant our understanding to contemplate and ponder over these and draw us and make our tawheed and make our connection, bond with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala strong as well. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.